Okay, wait. Okay, good. You're on good now.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of MademB. That's me. And Narik Reviews. That's him. We will be discussing today the final chapter, hopefully, of Tremors. We just finished watching it, and of course, we have our likes and dislikes. Tremors, A Cold Day in Hell, also known as Tremors 6. Let's go.
All right, then. Man, you heard Madam B throughout the intro. Let's get into this. Now, the sixth installment of the Tremor series, which is one of those series where it's like, it's
It's
kind
like
of,
Sharknado.
it's like bad, but it's good and it's entertaining. So it's like bad, but it's entertaining.
Like Sharknado.
Sharknado is just ridiculous. That's a whole new level of ridiculous. But in the sixth installment of the Tremors series, we do see Burt Gummer and his son return again to have to deal with, I don't want to say a new type of graboids, but graboids nonetheless. This time, instead of it being in Africa, this time instead of it being in the desert, it is in the Arctic region.
And they really didn't give any, what do you call that,
Exposition.
on the they're supposed to be in the tundra, like in the maybe the few minutes of the beginning. That was it.
Like, literally the beginning of the movie, they're in like ice, like ice part, not like dirt with. It's not dirt with ice on it. It's not.
It's like
It's literally just ice and
the
snow,
Arctic.
and they're burrowing through that. And I'm like, they don't give any reason. I can understand if they had a new strain that was built for the cold or something that probably generated heat, which would make sense in like that type of environment. But they didn't give no exposition of it. That was not the case. They were basically the same graboids that we seen from
The first one to the fifth.
well, more of the fifth ones because they had the little spinning ones, kinda. Yeah, they spun, and the flying ones and everything.
I think they just added just more when they were like building, or what do you call that, practical or whatever.
Yeah.
They just added a little touch here, a little touch there. It's like from the first one, but and then in the fifth one, they just jump out of the ground, and I still don't get that.
Like this movie, honestly, the biggest problem with the movie, aside from the writing, is the fact that the graboids are very inconsistent with the series. When I say inconsistent, they are literally inconsistent. Like the stuff they do in this movie does not make any sense. Yes, they're creatures but they're animals. They have certain habits. If you watch the movies, one of the things about the graboids, specifically the ones underground, is the fact that they hunt by sound and vibrations. But in this movie, they don't do that. They just they know where you are specifically.
Like, even though people said don't move, it didn't matter. They got you anyway. So.
They attack people for no reason. They showed up. They showed up in certain sequences when it didn't make any sense for them to show up. And like I said, the biggest problem, one of the most meaningless deaths in the movie happened this way. In fact, when the first beginning of the movie, when the first person gets killed, a woman, and it's predictable, I said she's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? She died, and she literally died for no reason. Because if you're gonna go by the logic of these things travel by vibrations, they would attack her compatriots first because the compatriots were drilling.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally didn't move, and she died. So, and just like you said, the problem with this movie is just that the graboids themselves are just so inconsistent. Now, as far as some of the good things, visually the movie does look good. The landscapes, the wide shots look good. There are some spotty CG, like green screenish type moments that are kind of noticeable. But for the most part, just the layout of the land is just beautifully shot and beautifully captured. Even the kind of encampment area they're in, it looks good. Like it's good production value. Also, the performances actually weren't bad. They had some decent performances, of course.
I mean, well, Travis and of course Burt crazy self of, after all this time, gets called back for another graboid capture, or, like he's the only one in the whole world, let's just say, who can capture
and track
and capture graboids and kill them. We also saw an ass blaster. That did not make any sense.
Yeah, the ass blaster.
And it was again, just one, right?
Yeah, and that's, I said, no, it's two. I think the first one did get killed by the airplane.
Okay.
But like I said, this movie is so freaking inconsistent with the graboids. There's one sequence where it was a graboid underwater. And it didn't really make sense for the thing to be underwater, but it was actually under the ground, under the water, but it's still basically underwater.
Right, it can swim now.
And there was all of this drilling going on. The thing did not act up in the slightest. Even though it was there. For some reason it was there. Not moving, not doing anything. And then it's the woman that was in the water. They felt a couple of tremors. And then the woman stepped back on the egg. And then the graboid took off after her.
And then they didn't discuss the eggs no more. What was it? The graboid's eggs? What kind of eggs were they?
Yeah, and I mean, of course they were the graboid eggs, but the thing about it is, like, it didn't make sense for those eggs to be there. They were underwater for one thing. Another thing is, if they set up all of that equipment and stuff in that water, there's no way in hell they didn't see those eggs there. So,
because they would have to do like a search of the area they're going to be in to make sure there's nothing there.
Stable ground. It ain't a habitat of any like major animals or anything like that. Because you could you don't want to sit there and put this encampment up, and then there's a polar bear that lives there. You don't want that. So like that part didn't make any sense. Burt being poisoned by a graboid, which I actually thought that was an interesting storyline, because as far as we know, he's the only person we've seen get swallowed by one but actually live. So I was like, okay, that was actually a pretty interesting storyline. And for those who don't know, he got poisoned basically by infected, more is the word, by a parasite that he received from within the graboid. And as I explained to Madam B while we were watching the movie, animals do have a tendency. They don't cook their food and stuff, so they're more exposed to like parasites that are being in worms and stuff that are in other animals that they eat and on plants and stuff like that. So like it would make sense. So I was like, okay, I'm behind them on that. That was an interesting idea.
They just didn't build on it, not the antidote or anything.
And I would say the practical effects and special effects were actually pretty good, especially the practical. And the designs of the creatures were hit and miss. Like the overall design of the graboid's fine. I still don't like the way the ass blasters and the tongues looked and stuff. And another thing that we was talking about, the inconsistencies of the graboids, those little snake tongue things. Mm-hmm. They literally act like they had a mind of their own, and they acted like they could see. And remember when I told you we was watching that movie, The Descent? Mm-hmm. These creatures aren't supposed to see. So when the woman was swinging that stick at them, the thing was dodging the stick like it could see what it was doing. Right. So this movie, the same thing. There's a sequence where 3 characters are trying to take these snake things out, and they're literally reacting to the swings instead of, like, if you can't see, wow, that should be the easiest thing. You know what I'm saying? But yes, they did introduce that storyline about the venom, and the one person that they brought up with that brought up that whole venom thing got ate. No reason whatsoever. Like, they were not making like a shit ton of noise. I don't see how it attracted them. They're talking to Burt, telling Burt that he's dying because of this infection. And next, these tongue things literally went 10 feet up into the air to go through this glass, bite this woman, and for no reason. And then just drug out, she just got ate. Graboid was literally in the window like this and just ate her. I'm like, why did that happen? That was like the most unneeded death.
Like it was like sneaking up and listening to her.
Yeah, that's basically what it did in this movie. And, oh my Jesus. in the part where, and I told her, and I noticed it, when the graboids are far off, you can see the dirt like flopping in the air. It'd be like, but every time
like it has a blowhole.
Yeah,
you know, and it's just.
That's what it basically looked like. It looked like a whale in the water, just. But that was only when it was distant. But every time it was close, you saw that slow motion of sand coming toward people. The actual story is that these people got attacked by graboids, and Burt's come there with his son to help try to get the situation handled. They're basically in just like a depression, like a valley or whatever. The mountains surround us, so they can't get out, and the graboids can't get out. So they're all stuck in this like one big area. There's this organization named DARPA that's with that's next to this research team, and they didn't play a role in this movie whatsoever.
No.
Which was completely stupid. I don't even understand why they were in the movie.
But actually, the title of this movie, of course, is kind of stupid because if it would have took place somewhere they had set up camp in the Arctic around
in
that
the
part,
tundra area,
they had to fight with, of course, the graboid and the conditions of the weather. That would have been more. And the graboid does not have teeth. So.
Yeah, they got the teeth in this. I mean, the picture looked badass. It looked like Mongolian death worm.
That's where they got it from. But yeah, it doesn't have teeth.
But you're right about that. You're right about that point. It would have made sense if you're gonna say it's a cold in hell, and you introduce these things attacking people in the ice. It would make sense for them
like to leave it there.
Yeah, they
it's
stuck
like
it
they
out.
were. It's like at the end they were back in perfection. That's how it looked. So
yeah, and the fact that they took it back, they started at perfection. They need to stop perfection.
Nobody was in perfection. They need to leave that alone. They should have started off somewhere else.
Like Burt got this store and everything, and I think it's the store from the first movie, but it's like no reason to be there.
Yeah, it was the store from the first movie.
Like there was no reason. And remember, I kept saying they kept shooting at one angle of that building, so you couldn't see nothing around it.
Yeah.
This time around, Burt and Travis are kind of having like father-son issues, which should have been pretty much resolved in the first movie, in the fifth movie. But in this movie, they laid it on thick. They laid it on like that's their first time ever meeting. So I did not like that. I do like the fact that this movie does try to come back full circle with the story, the overall story. Val and Rhoda had a daughter named Valerie.
Or Val.
Valerie McKee, who's supposed to be the daughter of Kevin Bacon's character, right? Yeah, Kevin Bacon's character from the first movie. And I'm like, okay, that was a pretty interesting twist, and that made more sense to made more sense for Burt to kind of be there because somebody he knew, well, he kind of knew. No, he didn't know.
She knew about him.
Yeah, somebody that was close to somebody he knew was in it, so it wouldn't make sense for her to call him because she's known all about him, know about him and all this stuff. So it would make sense for her. The problem with her character is she did not get any shine. It was way too many characters in this movie too. There's this character, Rita Sims. I feel like her character
with the blonde-headed chick.
Yeah, that should have been Valerie's character because that would have made her more relevant in the story. And they kind of had this romance between Rita and Travis, which again, Valerie should have probably been that role to make her stand out more. And this movie could have been like one of those, and it kind of acts like it wants to be that movie that it's a passing of the torch. The older generation is handed down to the younger generation.
Yeah, but Burt was stubborn and stupid, and it's like he wanted it all to be about him. Like he had to have this.
No, like with him, I think it felt like I at one point when they were talking, and I said this when we were watching it, there should have been a moment where Travis said something, Burt should have snapped out of it, and he kind of did, but he really didn't. Burt goes into this like this is his last. When he finds out that he's dying, he's going into it like this is his last rodeo. And I do like that because that would fit in with his character. But there should have been a moment where Travis, which him his character gets shine in this movie, but they did kind of downplay him a little bit, and I guess it has something to do with all his other characters. But
oh my god, I just thought of maybe like a good one when like Burt probably wouldn't listen or wouldn't listen to Travis or nobody. It was like it should have been at a moment where to have a little cameo to have somebody come back, and the thing was, okay, Travis was like, well, I got somebody who maybe you'll listen to, and then Heather pops up.
That would have made sense.
And it's like, you know how Reba McEntire talks, Burt, you gotta stop this. You know, something like that. Just,
yeah.
That would have been good.
Or if they could get, because that Ass Blast destroyed the communications, but if they could have got a call out, that probably would have been a call. It would have been a stupid call, but it would have been a call that would have hit Burt's character.
Or
it would have some development.
Showed up with a big cannon and maybe just shot one when they were all trapped or something.
Do like Triple X, Return of Xander Cage. Press that button. Ice Cube show up. Like nobody ever pressed the button. But it's an interesting idea, of course. And then some of the goofiness of the series finds its way into it, and some of it's cool, especially with the dialogue. But some of it's kind of it's phoned in, it's hammy.
And some of the scenes, of course, I went back to the first movie, either what they did or how they said it.
Yeah, there were some sequences, and I remember what you were saying about her taking the pants off, and then there was some of the typical Burt Gummer quotes. He was like, "You bastard!" and all this stuff. I was a bit surprised that they didn't do the whole need to know information part. They didn't do that.
Okay.
He kind of started to say it, but they cut it off, and I was like, thank you. But like I said, the characters too, and the way the Grab Boys acted.
Yeah, there were too many. They too many characters, and they just wanted the Grab Boys, I guess, to get their shine with a little spin and twirl. I
mean, the Grab Boys on this were like ass, like they were kicking ass. They were tossing cars, flipping trailers. They didn't make no sense like the stuff they did in this movie didn't make sense.
Like if those were the same Graboids, besides their little spikes on the back, then in the first one it should have been able to do the same thing with that small ass trailer.
No, see, the difference is these supposed to be like a strand of the strand. Now, whether the Perfection ones were a weaker strand of this one, because remember in Part 5 in Africa and in this one they could jump and stuff, that was another thing. That was another thing that didn't make any sense. The fact that they could jump and like target and time the jump and stuff, that's very highly unlikely. And how accurate they were, unlikely. But this whole them doing all this stuff didn't make it. Like when they flipped the car, didn't make sense for them to flip the car. Yes, I can understand that it possibly ran into the car, but it literally just booged like that. When it hit the trailer, what happened? Boosh like that. Like it didn't make any sense. And honestly, I don't see how in the hell they flipped the trailer. Because if one could just be right there and just come through the trailer floor like that, why didn't it just basically just come through the floor? How did it knock the whole trailer up? It would have just went through the trailer, not the whole trailer. The DARPA guys, I mean, the movie's just a freaking mess.
Okay, if it was as fast as it was going, or whatever, how strong it was, when it was coming, they used the trailer to trap it, right? Okay, it was like coming fast, shouldn't have been able to go right through the trailer.
Yeah, true. That speed would have went through the trailer. Even towards the end of it, I mean, it was ingenious. I give them that. It was creative how they caught it.
Yeah.
That I give them that. But
the antidote part, nothing.
Interesting. It didn't lead anywhere. Yes, they got the antidote, but it didn't lead anywhere.
It didn't show how they broke it down. Like I said, there should have been like two halves when Burt having them get the antidote for Burt, and then the rest of them fighting it. They were all fighting, and then last 5 minutes they got the antidote.
And remember what we said: the woman that found out that Burt was poisoned and everything, she got 8. So how did they come up with the antidote?
Right. They just stuck whatever it was they got out of the sack into an IV.
I mean, maybe I got it mixed up. Maybe Miss Rita Sims was the reason. Was the one that talked about the venom stuff. But I specifically remember the woman that got pulled through the window. She was the one that was like, "You got the venom and stuff is killing you and all of this." And
it had a lot of characters that too many girls. I kept mixing them up. Even Valerie, I kept mixing her up with another girl. So
if this movie would have had probably about 7 characters, main characters, and yes, because think about it, what made the other characters in the other movie so memorable? The movie was about like them, and it was a limited cast.
Mm-hmm.
Like you remembered these characters because it wasn't like 20 characters; it was maybe 10, and it made sense because of the scope of what's going on. But in this movie, it's a small area. You got all these characters. Some of them don't do nothing, and like it didn't really make any sense. It should have been maybe 7, 8 characters tops. The Swackhammer guy, I didn't like that whole part. He had all of this dynamite, was playing with it, dancing and throwing it and not using it. I'm like, dude, you probably could have been killed this thing. Or no, let me take that back. They were trying to capture it. Okay, yeah. We take that back. But his character was kind of cuckoo. The Acklark was one of those characters. Like, I'm not sure if he should have been in the movie. I mean, he was a decent character, but nothing really stood out about him except he looks like Maui.
Right, it's like he had more screen time than Val's daughter.
Wasn't he with the chick with the airplane? Majority of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the chick with the airplane was actually a decent character. I actually liked her.
She stayed dirty throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, and then Maui was with her, so I can understand him. However he says this dude's name. Okay, those 2 characters were decent.
So it should have been Burt, Travis, and if they would let the doctor chick live to work on the antidote, her and Valerie.
And Maui, the chick that flew the plane, and maybe one other character, and they're all trying to like survive together. Yes, I could understand that. But anyway, what is your final verdict for this movie?
Oh my gosh.
I want to give it a 2 out of 5, but if it like I said, I rated it in 2 things. Was it good? Was it entertaining? As far as a good movie, no, it's a bad movie. Entertaining movie, yes, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
I'd just give it a 3 out of 5.
3, yeah.
All right, we got 2 3s out of 5s here. Anyways, guys, in the comment section below, let us know would you grade this movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you think they should continue on with a different series? And if they could make a cameo or bring one of the characters back from the previous movies, who would you like to see? And in the comment, what do you say?
Who would you like to see if they could have brought one back?
We'll definitely talk about that in another video. I'm ahead. But anyways, guys, be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and the notification button to get the best of what's going on the Narik Chase channel. As well as, remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do upload videos, so stay tuned for those. And without further ado, we'll catch you guys later.